Stop buying more plants to fix your garden. I know that sounds strange coming from someone who spent over 25 years building landscapes, but here in Vancouver, I see this every single day. We spend thousands at the nursery every April. We fill our carts, we load up the car, we bring everything home full of excitement. And then we spend our weekends clubbing our plants into submission, moving them, replanting them, trying to make it work, trying to fix something that doesn't feel right. But then by August, something changes. The garden starts to look tired. The energy is gone. The weeds are winning. And we're left standing there, frustrated, confused, wondering, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth, and this is important. Your garden is not failing because you don't have a green thumb. It's not failing because you didn't spend enough money. That's not the problem. The problem is you're buying individual stars instead of building a system. And without a system, nothing lasts, no matter how good the plants are. So today, I want to show you something different, how to stop nursing your plants and start stewarding a landscape that actually looks after itself. Most of us here in Vancouver, especially around Kitts, the west side, we're busy. We don't have hours every week to figure out what each plant needs, but we still want that perfect magazine look, manicured hedges, colorful flowers, deep green lawns, everything looking put together, effortless. So what do? We go to the nursery, we see a plant looking amazing in its pot, healthy, full, perfect, and we buy it on impulse, no plan, no system, just a feeling, this one looks good. And right there, that's where things start to go wrong, because without realizing it, we flipped the entire design process upside down. We choose the plant before we understand the site, before we look at the soil, the light, the drainage, the actual conditions that determine whether anything survives. So we bring it home, we dig a hole, and then here comes the big mistake. We fill that hole with magic soil, rich, soft, full of nutrients, maybe some wood-based mix, something that looks perfect. And we think we're being kind, we think we're helping the plant. But in Vancouver, with our heavy clay soil, you're actually creating a trap, a hidden one, what we call the bathtub effect. Water goes in, but it doesn't move, it doesn't drain into the native soil. It just sits there, trapped, like water in a tub. And now your plant roots, instead of exploring, instead of growing outward, they stay confined, circling, searching, but stuck in that one hole. They never connect to the real soil around them. And over time, something happens. That expensive plant, the one you were excited about, doesn't thrive. It struggles, it weakens, it slowly drowns or suffocates in its own little perfect world. And what you're left with is something I see all the time, what I call green blobs, plants that just sit there, alive but not growing, not thriving, not doing anything for 50 weeks of the year. And suddenly you realize that you've spent the money, you've put in the effort, but the garden doesn't feel right. It feels bitty, disconnected, chaotic, not like a space you actually want to be in. The real enemy here is a misunderstanding of what a garden actually is. We think of it as a static object we can control with plastic and chemicals. This leads people to buy those big rolls of landscape fabric or weed barrier. It's the ultimate beginning gardener product because it gives you an instant, clean look for exactly 2 years. But here's the deep insight. Landscape fabric is a slow motion disaster for your soil. It becomes compromised by dirt and decomposing matter, plugging up the holes and stopping the exchange of air and water. Soil isn't just dirt, it's a living soil food web of beneficial bacteria, fungi, and microbes. When you lay down plastic, you're suffocating the very army that feeds your plants and prevents disease. Worse, when you finally realize the weeds are growing on top of the fabric and you try to rip it out, you end up tearing the feeding roots of your trees that have woven themselves into the mesh. You're fighting nature with a plastic straitjacket, and in a garden, nature always wins in the end. So, how do we fix this? We shift from buying plants to building a system. Think of your soil health like your own gut health. We're trying to put yogurt in the soil by building the microbiology. First, the plan. Instead of one plant here and one there, Use a small plant palette in bold massed ways. This creates a textural tapestry and a sense of rhythm. Second, the mini miracle, mulch. Forget the fabric. A constant 2-inch layer of organic mulch, like double ground shredded cedar or garden compost, is your best friend. It suppresses weeds by blocking light, keeps moisture in our dry summers, and feeds the soil as it breaks down. Third, garden like a cow. This is a technique I learned from some of the best. Keep your edges crisp and your paths defined to provide the formal structure, but let the plants inside the beds jostle and be themselves. Now the struggle, this isn't instant. It takes patience. You're better off buying smaller 1-gallon plants that will establish faster and be healthier in the long run than spending a fortune on a mature tree that will struggle to adapt to your soil. It's about high output, but low input. When you stop over-controlling and start working with the conditions you have, whether it's a mini lake in the winter or a south-facing rock face in the summer, something magical happens. You end up with a well-trained yard. This is a landscape where the soil is rich and full of earthworms, meaning you don't need synthetic fertilizers that burn your plants. Because the plants are massed and the mulch is thick, the weeds simply have no room to grow. You'll find you're watering less because your plants have found their own level and their roots have gone deep. The transformation isn't just visual. It's emotional. You go from a yard that feels like a chore to a haven and a sanctuary. You'll find yourself coming out here with a cup of tea and your heart rate just drops. You're no longer fighting the land, you're part of it. The lesson I've learned after more than 25 years in this industry is that they who plant a garden plant happiness. But that happiness only lasts if you build a foundation that can sustain itself. Your garden is a process, not a finished object. It's a conversation between you and the earth. When you change your mindset from, how do I make it look pretty for a day, to how do I make it healthy for 20 years, the pressure disappears. You realize it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be alive. If you're ready to stop the impulse cycle and want to know which specific plants I've relied on for 25 years, because they always show up, regardless of the weather, then you'll want to see the next video in this series. We're going to talk about my top proven performers for the Vancouver climate. For now, take 5 minutes this weekend. Don't weed, don't prune. Just sit in your garden and listen to what the soil is trying to tell you. Okay, just a quick video here on the property I finished, so you can see all the the soil topped up here. So like I said, this is like a wild kind of garden mixed in with manicure too. A lot of wild plants, natural plants, and a lot of plants added, more like the flowers and ferns that are not native. But you can see this is like a shade garden all through here. The moss garden down there with the ferns. And this is all more of the bigger trees on this side. As we go down, 2 hydrangea gardens, one here, 1 hydrangea garden there, the big lawn. The lawn that I'm actually trying to fix to get more grass. This is all ferns in here, ostrich ferns. So it's a nice fern patch here, and then a fern patch on this side. And then as we move into the wild zone, you got some purus on this side, mixed in with some azaleas on the other side there, sarcococa, all the native deer ferns. And this is all another food forest mixed in with some ferns, all the blueberries, strawberries that'll go in. And this is all the food forest I did about 3 years ago. So you can see I just added a bark mulch pathway for the kids this year. But it's all strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. There's rhubarb in there. And then again, just more of the natural kind of wild garden throughout here with some skimmias, pachysandra, a lot of that everywhere. And then back up to the front garden again. So this is a big property to take care of. I do a lot of weeding here too, a lot of pruning, but the majority of it, I mean, it's an old garden, so there's not a whole lot going on in this garden to be pruning other than some of the newer plants that are put in. Lots of vinca that can control the weeds too. Little garden on this side, and then back to the beginning here. So there we have it. Soil is done, and now we're kind of moving into the growing season now, end of March. Hope you liked the video. If this made you see your garden differently, just follow along. See you tomorrow.